Welcome back, everybody, to another Cedar Flags. In this episode, we're going to be doing a little bit of backstage type stuff, which is something that I don't think I want to say we've neglected that kind of work in this park, but we certainly haven't done too much of it. But we have been planning this project for a little while. We're finally getting around to it, and this is our little maintenance shed, I think we've been calling it, but it's more of a warehouse. But yes, this was originally going to be the only maintenance shed that I had planned for this park, but I think as we were going through and doing this, and I say I actually did all of this build on one stream over on Twitch, so if you want to see the process of that kind of stuff, make sure you go and follow me on Twitch or Twitter. I always notify when I'm going live to do this kind of work in this game. The links, as always, are down below in the description. But no, as we were building this, I think we determined that this is going to be maybe one of probably two maintenance or backstage type buildings. This one, as you can see, is pretty landlocked into the park, and I was figuring that we would probably want to have some sort of outside access to a maintenance shed or building, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to keep calling it a shed. We're going to want outside access to that via roads. So we went through and we actually did all of that road work. That was a big undertaking, but we had that kind of laid out. We have more road work to do because this is a big picture thing. I'm probably going to show you guys this in the live portion toward the end of this episode, but we're going to have roads that eventually connect the hotel spaces that we're going to eventually be building. I also want to pull some of that, or actually have like an access for maintenance vehicles off of that main road, because as of right now, this particular warehouse would only be accessible by truck probably after the park is closed and most people are cleared out. I don't think you'd really want big trucks driving around on pedestrian paths throughout the park while the guests are there. So this is kind of in its own precarious situation there. So what eventually we're going to do here is more or less fill this up as just like a extra space for our maintenance folks to use. So you'll see when we go in and start to stock this, this isn't actually going to be used for like a lot of, I guess, maintenance for like rides or like repairs or that kind of stuff. I'm not really sure how or what the maintenance guys usually do in parks. I've never actually worked in a full theme park like this. So if you guys have any experience on what we should do with the next maintenance shed or what specifically we should be putting in these kinds of builds, let me know in the comments below. But this is really going to be more of just a storage area for all of our park decorations and stuff, and we'll get to that after we're done building this. Now you're seeing we've got the basic shape here. This is a pretty sizable pretty sizable warehouse here, and it was pretty simple to build. It's really simple by design here. I didn't really want to go over the top with any sort of really strange designs here. This is really designed to just sit back and be very not attention grabbing, if you will. So very refined into just a basic shape, not much to attract the eye over here. And we're using this wooden panel, but we've painted it gray, and it looks a lot more like metal. So it's like a corrugated metal, and honestly I was really wanting that corrugated metal look here. And I think if we ever end up, or when we actually end up building the second maintenance area, we're gonna make that one a little bit more modern. So this one is designed to be more of like the park has used it for a while, and it was probably at one point the only maintenance shed, and eventually it's gonna be more of just go back to the old maintenance area and find what you need over there kind of thing. So this design is pretty cool. We have actually used corrugated walls before. If you remember way back into the Alpine River Rush station build, we used a corrugated roof that looked really cool as like a trim on the bottom side of the building. So it was a corrugated wall. It looked great. The problem with that was it was actually a roof piece and it was not on a grid. So if we wanted to use that for this entire build, it would have been extremely weird and it would probably have had a bunch of issues. Also, it would have added a lot more to the prop count. So we're using this wooden pallet wall, or I don't even know what these are called. They're just wooden walls here, and it looks fine. Like from a distance, if you didn't even know what parts were in the game, you just probably assume that these are indeed metal walls, and it looks great. And it's really just like I said, there's nothing special going on back here, and it is by design like that. So this is pretty cool back here. And honestly, it's pretty hidden. If you're just like, we'll go into the live portion and we'll look around from certain angles. You're gonna see it from the Summit Runner queue path a little bit. You're obviously gonna see it from the ride, but really it's so indescript. And when you're on the ride in that last little turn, you're pretty much focused on that ride. You know, you're focused on how great of a ride that was, and you're focused on the turn at hand. You're not going to have a lot of time to be looking around, and I guess, you know, if you've ever actually been on a coaster multiple times, you start to like take in different sights as you're riding it, and you're noticing different things. So I guess the more experienced riders will be able to poke their head out and see what's going on over in this maintenance area. And yeah, it's just gonna be a cool like backstage look into the park, and you really don't get to see a lot of those in real parks. They do a very good job of hiding all of this stuff a lot of the times, and I think we did a pretty good job here. Like I said, it is kind of in the open, but it's so nondescript that I think it's gonna be fine. And yeah, so we're just finishing out the trim on the top of that roof there. All of this was framed out. There was some wooden sections of that roof that stuck out. I didn't really want to see those. This is supposed to be more of a metal building in the first place, so really covering all that up with some simple trim work was pretty essential. And now what we're doing is we're going in and actually building some warehouse shelving units. So this was pretty easy to do. I think I honestly should probably put this up on the Steam Workshop if any of you guys want this sort of thing. You're going to see what we do with these shortly here, but before we do that, we're going to go and put these into the warehouse itself, and then of course we're going to start working on the decoration of all of this. And I say decoration on purpose because what we're going to be using this for, in theory, is an actual decoration storage facility. So we're going to be going through and filling up all of these shelves with props from the different holidays, and then we're going to go around and do some really fun stuff with just picking stuff off of the park that we already have placed and putting it in this warehouse, just because we already have it. Obviously we would need to store some of that kind of stuff for, you know, extras. So before we're doing that, we're just going to do a little work outside here. The outside work of this is pretty sloppy, but it's all on purpose. So we have these giant like generator AC units here that just felt like it fit over here. I don't know where those came from. I've never seen them before. I don't think I downloaded those from the Steam Workshop, but it's a cool little generator thing, and I think we're going to be using these a lot more. I think putting those around like an actual roller coaster is probably a good idea. Those are the kind of things that are generally around a giant roller coaster because they need that sort of power, and all of the control panels and stuff may go into that. I could be blowing that out of proportion. I'm not really sure. I've never honestly worked on a roller coaster, so don't hate me too bad for saying that kind of stuff. But that's the kind of stuff that I think we're going to need to add a little bit more to. I think we've neglected some of that kind of like the backstage type stuff for the rides. We did do the transfer track on Summit Runner, so we are trending more toward that, but there are still some things like Gravity Mod probably could have used something like that giant generator there. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. What we're doing right now is probably one of the more fun things I've had to do in a Planet Coaster build in a little while, and that was, I was sitting here and I was like, what are we going to actually do to fill up these shelves? We have so much shelf space here. What are we going to do? And eventually we go through the props menu, and I just saw some of these holiday themed props, and I was like, you know what? Obviously, theme parks and amusement parks, they have their holiday festival times and that kind of stuff, so they're just sitting on all these props a lot of the time, probably, unless they're hiring like a third-party company to come in and decorate their entire park. They have to be warehousing this kind of stuff. So what we're doing is turning all the shelf space into storage for the holiday stuff, which I think someone made a really good suggestion in the Twitch chat when I was live streaming this. They were like, you know what, when this park's done, you should probably do a few like special episodes for like Halloween version of the park or like Christmas version of the park. And I think that's a really good idea, and I think we'll end up doing that in the end of this series. There's going to be some some extra videos coming out at the end of this series when we're officially done with the build. But that's just kind of that idea. But no, we have all of these props that we're storing in here. There's a lot of like extra stuff, like some of these like chairs and stuff that honestly I don't know if we'd ever use in the park, but it just felt like something that we would end up storing over here. But yeah, maybe the front offices or the employee lounges had extra sofas that they needed to store somewhere. But no, that's just taking up some shelf space here. We're putting some crates in. Those are a good way to just make it seem like these shelves are full. It's kind of indescript in what they are there, but eventually we're going to be going through the park and actually picking apart a couple of the things that we've built already and then putting them out in the yard. So the warehouse itself, and as you can see, the top windows are a little iffy when you look up in the warehouse, but we just had to accept that because it was the way that the windows fit into that design. But no, we're going around the park here and we're taking some of the items that we had already placed, and a lot of what's in that warehouse is more or less hidden away. So I didn't really want to go like too over the top with what we put inside the warehouse, but there's also a bit of a yard here that we're going to be using as extra storage, and it's more or less just like we have all this extra stuff, we need to put it somewhere, pile it back in the maintenance area, no one's going to see it sort of feel back here. So we're just kind of throwing things in where they are, like just out in the yard. We're eventually going to be putting a giant fence around this so people on the train won't be seeing the junkyard that we have out in front of this building. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I think it adds a lot visually from above, and it's also cool because like I was saying, from the actual guest level of this park, you're never gonna see this kind of stuff. So it's just one of those backstage things. It's really cool for us as viewers to look at. And then when you think about it and like you do sort of like a role play in your mind and you go through the park and you're like walking around, it's you never really think about these things. And this, I'm guessing, happens a lot in actual parks. There's probably these kind of cluttered areas of their storage facilities that are just there. But yeah, I mean, this stuff, like this giant support section from Summit Runner, I felt like that was a really cool thing to put down there. I felt like maybe they had an extra one, or maybe something broke on it and they had to get it replaced, which would have been a pain, like if you actually had to do that on a real coaster. But maybe they sent an extra one for parts or something. That's probably not how that works. We have the extra gravity mod sign back here. We're actually going to be going around and getting a lot of extra signs and actually putting those back here and basically just throwing them in a pile, which is honestly something that we do at my work, and I'm in the sign industry. So I feel like I'm a little justified in saying that this could actually happen. Not sure like if an actual park would do this kind of stuff, but it's something that we did. Someone in the Twitch chat actually suggested that we take an extra water wheel and put it back there, since the water wheel for the Alpine River Rush is kind of hidden in the station building itself. I thought that was a good like rationale behind that, so we added an extra water wheel back here. We didn't lay it down, but it is just kind of standing there. And then of course we got some of these like shade tents and stuff like this. We're pulling all of the things. This was kind of like fun. It was kind of a nostalgic trip for me to go back and try to like pick out what we can get from here and there and try to get just certain little things and pull them over here and just leave them there in just a way to remember it almost. Of course I wanted to put some sort of like extra tracking pieces down back here. I just felt like maybe they'd have a couple extra pieces of track that are left over from construction, or like they got sent an extra section of the track because maybe that would be the area of the ride that's prone to breaking. Felt like it added a lot to the just the ambiance back here of just having like spare parts around. Now, unfortunately, doing that kind of thing actually freaks the game out. So we have the transfer track for Summit Runner is actually, so you have like the actual track for Summit Runner, and then you have the one straight piece of the transfer track, and then you have the actual like transfer track piece that's like an S-bend. So technically there are 3 roller coasters back there, and 2 of them are unfinished. So if you're actually going through and trying to play this game, or play this save, the game is constantly yelling at you like, you have unfinished rides, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but they're there for the show, you know? But it's one of those things that the little bit extra details that you're gonna squeeze into this kind of build, maybe for a playability standpoint, isn't so good. But then again, we're not really playing this. Although this is probably a good time to point out that I do upload these saves over to the Steam Workshop, so you can go ahead and grab that, download it, and play around with Cedar flags. I try to put the most recent saves up when I remember to. Again, I've said it before, but if you're looking for the most recent save, comment, and it's not on the Steam Workshop, go ahead and leave me a comment. I will see it and get that up as soon as possible. But yes, I've actually had a couple people like point out that they've been playing around with the save and they had like suggestions and we've taken them. It's pretty cool. It's really cool to hear that you guys are actually enjoying this park. And honestly, there's a lot of people on YouTube that are doing like design centric, series, but a lot of times they'll go like way overboard with like the props and they'll have like a ton of custom roofs that are like thousands and thousands of pieces. I've been trying to limit that, and that's really one of those things that I've been trying to work toward basically the entire series, is make this more of like an actual playable park rather than just like an overwhelmingly just prop-centric park. So if you have a lower end PC, you're probably not going to be able to load this up still. It's probably too big, although you might be able to load it up while it's paused or while there are absolutely no guests in the park. But for like a mid to high-end PC, you're going to have no trouble running this park save, and I really like that about this. And I think maybe we'll continue that, but I think just the sheer amount of stuff that we're putting in this park eventually will end up slowing it down to a halt. We've already had to limit the guest numbers in the park for my build. I would love to get a better PC for this kind of stuff, but it's just not in the budget for me right now. But no, it's getting there. I think we're gonna eventually be able to finish this park out. I'm not too worried about not being able to finish this because it just won't perform on my computer anymore. But that said, we have pushed the size of the land down a lot by all of this water that we've surrounded the park by. But I think that actually makes it more challenging and a little bit more fun trying to stay within bounds for that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to eventually getting down and finishing the rest of this. But before we can do that, we got to finish up this episode, of course, and we're just going through and putting a few more things in the warehouse here. A few of these things that we've actually had around the park, so we've used a lot of these little wooden beams around the park. I figured we'd have extra ones here. We also used a lot of the wooden posts for like these rope path, handrails. So I decided we're going to put some more of those in here as well. These are just extra. I joked that we were making like Home Depot in Planet Coaster here at this point, but these are really good to have around just because I feel like they'd break and you'd have to replace them every now and then. But I think that's just going to about do it for this time lapse. Let's go ahead and hop over to the live portion and check out what we were just doing. All right, guys, we are here live in Cedar Flags looking at what we just did, looking at our beautiful little cluster of junk that we have hidden in the back part of the park. Yes, this is our first of probably only 2 maintenance areas for the park. Again, that's up for debate, though. I don't know. But yeah, actually, before I talk about the intricacies of what we just did, let me explain more like a grand picture of what I was thinking here. So, like I was saying, this is kind of tucked away into the park, and you'd have to, if we needed to get these like giant trucks out of here, we'd have to drive them through this path and around all the guests. So what I'm thinking is we have the main road to the park for the parking lot here. Eventually, we're going to have a resort or hotel cluster over here. So I'm thinking we're going to have an access road that runs this way. So the park boundary will stay up here. The road will come this way. And I'm thinking right off of that, we'll end up having another maintenance building over here. So it should be a little bit bigger than what we have here, and it's gonna be housing like all the food stock for all of the shops that we have and all of the food stalls, and it's gonna house more of like the actual maintenance for roller coasters, I think, that kind of stuff. And again, I'm looking for advice on that kind of stuff. What kind of things should I put in and around that building? But no, this has turned into more of a storage facility for us. As you can see, we have a really cool DeLorean back in there. Do we actually have a DeLorean sitting out by Cedar Speedway? I don't remember. I think we may have thought about it. Yeah, we have one over here. So yes, we actually own 2 of those apparently, which is cool. Maybe if one gets damaged, they'll just roll the other one out. Not really sure why we're doing that, but whatever. This building also now houses a staff room, and if you caught it on the time lapse, it's tucked down behind this wall. So someone suggested that in the live chat as I was building to put a staff room in so we could see people actually walk in here. So I did that. I removed the barriers over here, but then I remembered that I think I turned off the staff room features for this save because I kept having problems with that and people just started quitting on me. So I think I turned all of that off. So if you download this save, it is up on the Steam Workshop if you want it. If you download it and you want to actually turn that feature back on, you will see people walk down there and into the break room there. So I don't know if guests would just wander down here just because it's a path. I think the guests in this game actually like figure out where they want to go and how to get there. I don't know if there's so much aimlessly wandering around. So that someone in the chat had said that shouldn't be a problem. But if people just start walking down here, I guess we'd have to put that barrier back up and the staff room will just be there for show or something like that. I do really like that this building is pretty nondescript. I said that a lot, but like the most of a glimpse you're ever gonna see of this warehouse is from over here in the little gated area. But yeah, it's just back there. It's behind some trees. It's behind some support structures. So yeah, you're never really gonna see it. It's blocked by a lot of the other scenery that we have going on. So that was all by design. I really like how that came out. And like I said, if you're on this coaster, you're obviously going to see this building here, but it's just a quick glimpse of it, and it's pretty cool. But no, I guess when you're over here on this bridge, you're also going to see it. It's not the most appealing building. Like, I feel like we could have maybe tried to put another tree or 2 over here, but I think it fits what it needs to do, and it does the job pretty well at that. This build was kind of fun. Like I said, we get to go around and just like nostalgic parts of the park. These are from the Cedar Speedway area. Of course, we have the Gravity Mod sign, a couple extra pieces from tracks in the park, and a bunch of just decorations and stuff. Honestly, I should probably put these shelving units up on the workshop. I think I talked about that a little bit, but putting these fully stocked on the workshop would probably save somebody a lot of time because it was a lot of just going through the menus and finding what else we could put on the shelf. But that, I think, just about does it for this episode here. It was a pretty straightforward project. I like that. Sometimes I think I bite off a project that's a little too big for one episode. This one worked out pretty well, and it was pretty simple to make. So I had a lot of fun with this, a lot of fun seeing you guys over in the Twitch chat. Like I said, if you want to interact with me and all of us on the live streams, go ahead and follow me on Twitch. As always, the links for those are in the description of this video, and that should just about wrap this one up, guys. I'm not entirely sure what we'll be doing in the next episode, so stay tuned for it. Whatever we end up doing, I'm sure I'll see you guys back here. Leave a thumbs up if you liked this video, thumbs down if you disliked it. Hit that join button if you'd like to support the channel just a little bit more, or you can check out the Patreon page and donate over there to get your name in the credits of these videos. And as always, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. But the gingerbread man!